Welcome to Beyond the Deck, a production war call in which we have CEOs on to give us their PowerPoint presentations to share with their shareholders. With us today, Bernard Turiol, CEO, HPQ Silicon, trades in Canada, HPQ for friends in the US, HPQFF. For those new to the story, HPQ is a cutting-edge Canadian producer of high value-added silicon products that are sought after by the battery and electric vehicle manufacturers, among many other industries. They're accomplishing this through the innovative process that permits the one-step transformation. I mean, this is very unique transformation of quartz into high-purity silicon metal and specialist silicon products. And they do it. This is the real trick at significantly reduced costs, energy usage, and carbon footprint. More than just lip service, over the last few years, they've signed at least 7 NDAs with EV manufacturers, battery makers, and other high-value material companies. And here to talk about it and go through the deck is Bernard. Welcome back, my friend.
Thanks, George.
Hey, before we get into the deck, you got it all teed up there and ready to go. You're in Europe. You've been on a bit of a European tour. And this is the presentation that you've been showing to various investors, potential partners. Give us an overall summary of how the trip has been going, who you've seen, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, well, this presentation has been ongoing since I started in New York. You remember last time, February when I was in New York. So that version of presentation has been online. It's been, small improvement because every time you do a roadshow, you notice an error there, an error there, a spelling mistake there. So, I didn't see that one. So as you run it, you keep doing small changes to the improvement. But the fundamental, this presentation has been on since we've announced our battery initiative and since we started a New York promotion. Now, the trip in Europe is sort of like twofold. One of them is HPQ through Novation as an R&D basically setup in Europe, and it needs some time. It needs for me to come here and have some discussion, so we can have longer discussion and just window discussion about all the projects that we're moving forward. And at the same time, with our consultants that are helping us introduce HPQ to Europe, and our innovative solution. I've also done some meetings with potential industrial partners, potential site holders, investors. It's a mixed bag of investors, and the reception for our presentations have been very, very positive. So things are definitely in the right direction. Like in Europe, like in North America, you have to be present. You have to start talking. You have to start presenting what you're doing. That's what we're doing. Luckily for me, I have 2 local people here in Europe, basically consulting, representing ourselves through HPQ Europe, which are very active, and it's going to start to bear some very positive fruit over the coming months. We also
Europe,
have
you said, by the way, is actually maybe even more important than Canada, because you've talked about the decision makers are there. More electric vehicle manufacturers per capita than anywhere. Let's talk a little bit about that and why Europe is so important.
Well, there's actually twofold to this. Okay, Canada and North America have not identified silicon as a strategic mineral. So a lot of the governmental program presented in Canada do not yet make any special mention of what HPQ is doing. The counterpart to this is that in Europe, silicon is a strategic mineral. There is a very strong political will to reindustrialize. So our business story, our business plan has a lot more resonance there than is in North America. Probably because in North America, especially in Canada, they're more focused on trying to say, we want to be the battery manufacturer, the battery supplier to the world. Well, what we're developing is silicon, which is an important key to all those sectors. So eventually they'll wake up. I've got some of my investors did some due diligence and sent information to the government, and they came back and says, well, by 2024 we might take a look at and add silicon to the strategic mineral list. But
that would be perfect time for you anyways, because you're not quite ready for it regardless right now. You're almost there, but
it's yeah, we're in the right position. Okay, silicon for batteries just starting. The realization that silicon for batteries is mostly made in China is starting to hit, and there is a clear political will in Europe and the same in the US, because the IRA really specifically says that people want to be reindustrialize production. Well, you don't reindustrialize in that 24-hour time frame. It doesn't happen. So our timing is good. We've been working on this in 2015. We have a pilot plan that's working right now. We have additional process that we're developing, which we're going to talk through the presentation. So I think the timing is fantastic for HPQ.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how successful has this been? Has this tour been? How happy are you with the reception HPQ has gotten, both on the finance investment side and on the product side?
9 to 10 basically, because it's advancing exactly the way I expected. On some side of our business, it's actually surprising how some of the other parties are pushing us to move forward on some specific project, and everything else. On other project, we're seeing that our timing is just perfect with regard to introducing ourselves. So I have to be cautious about what I say, in the sense that there's a lot of moving part to HPQ. But since we have a strong R&D side to what we're doing, as a matter of policy, some of the things that we're doing are going to be subject to patents. So I can't really, divulge too much about those things until we have actually filed a patent. It's just, I would understand, would love to tell a lot of my investors what we're doing, but I have to be disciplined in our approach.
Yep, and that makes sense. Safe to assume some or all these patents might be filed in the next few weeks, few months, just to give us a, I gotta ask, because people at home are gonna be thinking, okay, is this soon? Is this at the end of the year? So I'm gonna ask, you don't have to answer, but ballpark, is this something happened in the first half of 2023 or the second half of 2023?
It's gonna be gradual. It's gonna be over time. It's gonna be, I'm hoping to start. We're in Q2, so I'm hoping that we'll start having some goods in Q2, Q3, and then keep on moving.
All right, that's all I can ask for right there. So we got the deck up on the screen.
Yep.
I know you've been anxious to show it, and a lot of us have been anxious to watch it, because you've had nice success in Europe with this. So Bernard.
Well, no, but George, I've also had some very nice success in the US with this. Okay?
I'm talking about this specific tour right now.
But I just want the reception to what we're doing is very good. So
is there a common theme, Bernard, when you say the reception? Is there a common theme? I know there are probably multiple great things you hear, but is there a common theme you're hearing that maybe the one message that resonates with people who see this presentation and what they say to you about HPQ Silicon?
They basically said, everybody's really fascinating. It's different. It's like, remember, when I used to do these type of roadshows, I used to be a mining company. As a mining company, it's different, and you get the feedback from the investors. Oh, this is really good. We want to know more. We want to push it. We're really interested in what you're doing. Some of them come over. So if you're doing financing, contact us. Some of them are saying, oh, you have what it takes to be a big time in the US. Some in Europe are saying, oh my God, we have to take a look at getting you installed in those locations. So there's local governments that are sort of like starting to move to try to see where we come in. So it's at multi-level. And one thing I've learned in this business is that, to get a sales tomorrow, you got to start working a long time. It doesn't happen. Like everybody keeps telling me, people should be buying instantly. It just doesn't happen. It's a long step to building up what we're doing. And people are realizing that since 2015, we've advanced. We have a track record. Okay, there's been some fluctuation, but in the end, we're still going in the same direction. We're moving advanced. We're moving forward, and it's gonna bear very, very interesting fruit for all of us. So, I think green energy, silica, silicon material technologies is an important factor, and it's moving in the right direction.
Okay. With that said, floor is yours, my friend.
Okay. The investment idol. Well, I'm going to have a discussion with you, but you understand this. But the investment idol, what people have to understand is HPQ is not just the QRR. Okay. We have our silicon initiative, which is basically we're working at reimagining, rethinking how silicone manufacturing is. One of our big premises is that silicone is a sandwich material that basically was outside of everybody's attention. It's become much more serious now. All the aspect of silicone manufacturing and production is becoming more aspect. So we're really, that part of the business is much more than just making the material for batteries. It gives us an incredible strategic point. So we're looking at transforming silica into silicone in a greener, more efficient manner. It's like when I tell you the things about the patent, we've announced in our quarterly that we bought it from Pyro, a patent about making greener silicone. There's still some contractual issues that we're resolving with Pyro on the follow-up steps to it. And I can't wait to be able to announce this, because this is really going to change the dynamic of it. Because what few people don't realize is that silicone metal manufacturing is the most carbon intensive process in the world. Aluminum is two kilograms per kilogram of steel produced, or aluminum. I think steel is 1.5, and we're at 5 per kilogram. So it's one of the most. It's also going to put up in the map of really inventing green silicone manufacturing. So
it's a segment that's screaming for a solution.
All of the issues are screaming for solution, and this is what we're offering. We're offering a modular solution. The green energy footprint is very important, and our solution, by being smaller and scalable, it requires less energy, so it can be much more green energy aligned, as opposed to traditional big plants that are going to be built. Our one-step silicone material is perfectly suited for high value application. We know that for sure. We've announced that we've done some very nice material at 2 ends during a preliminary step. I have absolutely no doubt that we can make higher purity material. Technology is protected by patent, and more patents filing and those issues. What we're trying to do is create a patent family around the QRR technologies, which will make the QRR process, as I've always believed, the technology to make silicone when people are going to want to reindustrialize silicone manufacturing back to North America, Europe, and those areas.
And for those people new to HPQ, by the way, the QRR is your reactor.
But if they're patient enough to wait to page 5, I'll get a full description of the process, George.
Yeah. Want to make sure we keep them. They know what's happening until you get to that.
And then a Fume Silica initiative. I'm gonna be very, very honest. The Fume Silica initiative excites me a bit more than the QRR for a very different reason. I'll tell you why. It's been one where we've been extremely quiet on, but that doesn't mean we're not working. The fact that we're quiet does not mean we're not working. That's a key point. And the reason why I'm more excited about it, yes, this is a sandwich material. Okay. So there's going to be no differentiation from the material I make for one of the big players that are doing in the industry, and it's just like silicone. It's just a few big players doing it because it's very energy intensive. Just right next to me, there's a plant of Alchem that does silicones and those type of materials, all those offsets. So it is one of those big material that's used in everything. So if we can make a material that meets a specific quality specification, okay, of all the other ones, then we have the market. Reason why I say we have the market, because we're cutting down the energy consumption by 86%. That has a massive impact on the carbon footprint. All of these industries, okay, are looking at ways of reducing their carbon footprint. So I believe it's going to be one that's going to be almost easier, I do put in quotation mark, easier to enter. And without giving away things that are ongoing, we've actually been getting also some very good traction on that concept, even though we've barely talked about this.
The big takeaway from that might be the fact that you said you're almost more excited about the Fume Silica than you are about the QRR, and that's saying something. That's unbelievable. but we'll wait for more to come on that, but that's pretty prophetic there.
And then, and their third really big initiatives are HPQ Hydrogen Initiative, which is actually following a tangent that we've always demonstrated. It started with the looking at, using silicone as a material for hydrolysis type of production of hydrogen. It's still in that direction, that tangent, but I think the process that we're developing is even better. It resolves more issues than people think. But once again, I'm limited about what I say right now. Not because I don't want to. It's because until we file the patent for the technologies, I'll just keep myself to say that we are addressing the biggest issues that there are with hydrogen, which is transportation. Okay, you can make green hydrogen at the source, but the moment you take it away 100 kilometers away from where you've done it, you're no longer green. The infrastructures to transport hydrogens are massively expensive and incredibly dangerous. Just Google hydrogen refueling station explosion. Find out what I'm talking about.
And obviously you can't talk about much now, but you think an HPQ is going to be able to resolve much of that.
I believe that Novasium has a solution for this, and in our agreement with Novasium, at this stage we have the worldwide distribution and marketing right to it. So and also remember, we're in the third quarters of operation with Novasium, so it's now normal now that we have our dedicated R&D team is bringing us more and more great solution to move things faster along. If you think about this, Pyro does the heavy industry type of situation, and we're doing the smaller, faster work to move on this. So I think it's a dream team that we now have been able to set up. So nice. Very happy about this. We have measured an achievable 3-year goal plan to start commercialization. We haven't yet finalized what type of commercialization. To be totally honest, I think the Fume silica might be one that's going to be commercialized for HPQ differently than the QRR. There's a good, and I'll explain it a little better, but there's a good probability that's going to. So our commercialization, when we say commercialization, doesn't mean like selling of silicon. It might be licensing as agreement. It might be joint venture. And, there's so many opportunities what we have. That what I am is agnostic. So I don't have a predetermined situation, but I'm open to multiple options. We have an experience management center. I've been doing this for many years, and where my experience and the experience of my team is that we're good at operating non-revenue companies and working to make sure that we're working toward generating shareholder value. There's up and down to this. It's not a straight line, but it's there. And I'm also a significant shareholder of a company, and which because of crazy option laws, I actually have a lot of my shares that are underwater. So all my options are underwater, but that doesn't bother me because I know what we have is tremendous. We have also strong institutional support, and by that I mean the Quebec government owns 9.2%. Oh, I remember we had those discussions. What's the biggest takeaway from meeting with investors? And it's always the question about how the Quebec government became the shareholder of the company. And when I explained them that, in 2018, we did a convertible debenture with warrants into it, which had a clause where they warrant the exercise, we could basically buy back the convertible debenture. And when came the time to do this, the government told us, no, we're not going to let you buy back the convertible debenture. We're going to convert, and then we're going to exercise our warrants and keep them. So the only thing they did is because they were just a smidge above 10% ownership. They just sold enough to be at 9.6, and they've stayed and they keep their shareholding into it. So it's we keep them abreast of what we're doing. So we have a very strong lead in basically institutional investor in the Quebec government that's supporting us, in addition to all the other things we're doing. So typical disclaimer, but we've adjusted it now that we're no longer a mining company.
So if you have to pause it to read it, then unpause. But that's how you.
Nah, like it's the typical disclosure. Yeah, well, people want to read it. It's page 3 of the presentation. And maybe somebody's going to find a spelling mistake in that one. Please feel free to send us comments about this. So what you have to understand is, well, you know this, but we are in a market space where the money being spent to reach net zero by 2050 are going to be massive. Okay, and this is exactly the space we're in. That's literally the space we're in. So we're developing with our world-class technology partner, Pyrogenesis, Novation, new green processes to reach that goal. First one is become a green, low-cost capex and opex producer of high purity silicon. Well, I hope in the coming quarter to be able to explain how we're going to become a green producer of silicon and really start the generation of green silicon. But further to say that we're on the right direction to reach that goal. Our process makes easily, and we've demonstrated this now at pilot scale, 2N silicon, which is the big feedstock needed for the industry right now. You need 2N silicon to make polysilicon, to make electronic grade material. You need to do 2N silicon to make silicones, and fundamentally but for the battery side, you need to make 3 to 4N. Now, since our technology will allow us to make 3 to 4N without that much difficulty, that puts us in a very great place. Maybe, who knows, maybe higher, but we know 3 to 4N is what battery manufacturers are looking for. And what I keep telling my European investors when I talk to them is, when I say becoming North America's first producer, everything I'm saying about North America, I can replicate in Europe too. So there's that side of it. But micron size,
that's the beauty of the system. You can put it anywhere.
Yeah, that's the beauty of our business plan, which is small modular system. We don't need to build massive infrastructure in one location and then ship everything over the world. And that's gonna play much better into what we're doing, because if you cut down the transportation, you can do it. If you put yourself close to the mine and you cut down the CO2 emission associated with this, we'll have all those issues. We really see, and we're really starting to feel that 3 to 4N micron size silicon material is going to be the key of the future. Interesting thing I've discovered here, because we had a market study done. Some of the people that were working the nano side of batteries have actually quit doing it. Just to give an example for people in Canada, Tecna used to make a nano powder silicone, and they've basically canceled doing that. So I think our vision that the market was going to go more for 3 to 4N silicone micron size is being correct, and has been validated for discussion I've had with battery manufacturers. So we believe that nano silicone material from high purity chunk is a business plan that can make sense, but maybe not instantaneously. But we already have a lot on our plate. If you think about it, the two first issues are pretty big. Fume silica is another one that we're really working, and we're really going to be green in the sense that we go directly from quartz to the fume silica, and we've done testing and validated we're on the right track for this, so we're very positive. And the hydrogen solution, that's going to be also very, very big. Just in a nutshell, I know a lot of people are saying, hypothetically, if we can't make the 3N silicone, we won't be able to have success. That's completely not true. First of all, we know we're going to make 3N. There's no issue doing this. But the silicone market, the 2N, the material we've already made, the 99.6 we've announced long ago, is going to be in high demand as feedstock for everything that everybody needs. Okay. In actual fact, the way the market is presenting itself is there's going to be a need for new plants to be built all over the world. And the question is, which technology are people going to choose? Do you choose to buy the old system, which is basically big, incumbent, polluting, and those issues, or do you go for the new technology? Now,
that's the rhetorical question, obviously.
Well, that's of course a rhetorical question. And as we keep advancing our pilot project and we keep doing the more studies about all the costing and those issues, it's going to become very, very clear that the only solution is ours. And that's already a very big market. We're talking about 3.8 million tons worth 20 billion by 2025. Okay. The Chinese, as we say in our two videos that we have in our presentation, have shown the Chinese control 80%, and there is a very strong political desire, both in Europe and in North America, to repatriate that production. Okay, you cannot consciously say that you want to repatriate chip manufacturing and still leave the raw material part outside of it. And you cannot make polysilicon without metallurgical grade silicon metal. So that's one of the big key issue, which I'm very keen and excited. And actually, there's been lots of literature in the US that's now starting to circulate, which is basically saying we could repatriate and much more economically and redo all the manufacturing of the solar industry there. So where HPQ fits in is that because we're much more specific, we can do the perfect feedstock material for the polysilicon plant. You can have a much more efficient system of making the polysilicon, and you don't need to build over capacity. You can right size it everywhere you want. So that's really one of our incredible advantage. There's also a unknown reality is that there's a lack of, anyway, in North America and in Europe, there's a lack of expertise on silicon. I can tell you from experience that the big players that, Fail Globe and those companies went through basically, life and death experience a few years ago. And they've basically cut everything that was fat. And when they call fat, they call R&D. So they got rid of really with all their R&D. They got rid of all that expertise. And, some of the people, most of those people were coming into retirement age also. So there's not too many people left with that type of expertise.
Oh, there's a massive gap there for HPQ Silicon.
There's a massive gap, but HPQ since 2015 we've been working at it. So at Pyrogenesis, we've been developing some of that expertise. And when we onboarded Novation, we got ourselves high level of type of experience in this regard. So that's another barrier to entry, which we've sort of resolved, or basically, we've sort of mitigated to our advantage. So, there's no low-hanging fruit of doing these type of projects. Chinese supplies now is going to be much more focused toward internal production. Like both bulk of the silicon manufacturing now in China is geared toward making polysilicon to make their own solar panel material. So, it's a great market to be in for what we're doing. As we've always said, we've always seen silicon challenges or HPQ opportunity. And the silicon market was really ripe for disruptive technology. And what makes our technology disruptive is really because we do three things, okay? We right size the size of a reactor. Instead of the 20,000 metric ton per year, we're talking 2,500. We have a process which does two things at the same time. First step, it does the carbothermic reduction, converting the quartz to silicon metal. And then we have we can keep it under vacuum, which allows us to basically improve the purity of the material up to 3 to 4 N coming out of the reactor in one step. What's really fascinating is that at this stage, when I speak to you, we've already demonstrated we do 99.6 even before we did the second purification step. So the future is very promising for what we're doing. So, we really have a lot of advantage. Our capex is going to be smaller to enter the industry. Okay? We had this discussion many times over, but I think is worth a while to repeat it. If we would have stayed a mining company that had a quartz deposit, okay, at one point you sort of have to make the economics of the quartz mine work. So you need to have a lot of material money coming out of it to make it work. Then that means you basically end up having to build massive plant. I look at other companies involved in this, and they're going to need to raise $1 billion to build a plant to balance all these issues. On our side, we're talking what Pyrogenesis published a press release not long ago. We're talking $20 to $40 million, depending if we put 1 or 2 plants together. I think the number is $25 to $30 million to put 2 plants together to start to be in the industry. So at 2,500. The other beauty of our approach is that we don't need, as some people have often done, we don't need to have 400% of the market basically, be economically feasible. We're just talking at 2,500. We're just taking the smaller, very small part of the market. But what that allows us is to cherry pick the high value and client. Our competitors can't really be as flexible. So when I have discussion with battery manufacturers, because I understand their thinking, is in the sense once they're going to finish their design of their battery, okay, they're going to want a specification of the silicon that comes into it, and they don't want nothing to change. And I can guarantee them, because I'll probably be able, just the one we were talking about, he was talking about the same size of plant we're working together, so it would work perfectly in that size. And that's what differentiates us from everybody. What also differentiates us from all the other silicon companies out there is because we're making our own feedstock for the battery material we're doing. We're always going to have control over our costs, as opposed to the other ones, which are basically not in the same position. So as I said, I think HPQ really has been, and we've been working on this in 2015. It's really coming to fruition. Without getting too much into it, there's more than one application. The 3 to 4 N micron size for batteries, nano silicon, so next generation. But silicon nitride, I think it's moving very, very well. Also, that's advancing. I'll probably be issuing some update on what we're doing in this regard relatively soon.
A lot of updates coming. I like that. A lot of updates and new initiatives.
Yeah,
it's
nice
here as well.
Okay, my German guys, they WhatsApp me continuously, but and whatever the time is, sometimes I'm still in the afternoon. I'm getting European calls coming in and those issues. So this is where sometimes you have to check what's going on. So yeah, there's going to be there's going to be more regular updates, but it can't be like regular like clockwork. It's regular when there's event, regular when there's things moving forward, regular when we file patent. But the markets that HPQ are the market that HPQ's QRR are attacking are massive. They're growing exponentially, and there's a need for what we're doing and we're seeing. Okay, now we just got to continue to do the development we're doing, finishing developing the QRR at the same time as we're developing our battery manufacturing side. So this is really the image I want people to understand. We have value proposition to develop and monetize. What does that mean? Well, at this stage, I can't tell you with prediction how it's going to be, how we're going to end up finalizing the valuation or the monetization. But as I told you when I was more excited about the Fume silica, well, we set up this division to be part of an independent company, HPQ Silicon Pulveris. And I truly do believe that this could be one that could be spin out, offset, bought off. Okay?
Wow.
And that we could use the fund. And as I told you, the simplistic reason is that if we make the material, and we believe that we have the knowledge to get there, then we completely change the industry. Okay. Therefore, people that are needing that material will have to come and start dancing with us. And with the minimal amount of information I have let out on this, I already have some interesting players coming to talk with me. And I'll leave it at that. For the PureVap QRR,
A lot of little crumbs. It's great.
well, it's that's about as much as I can say. The PureVap QRR.
I'm not pushing you.
Yeah, PureVap QRR, green silicone metal. I see really that as a big advantage. Unique position, need for new plants. So that could be something very interesting. Are we going to build all our plant? Are we going to start, licensing some of our things? All those are all interesting discussion that we will have over the coming years. The silicone for the micro size silicone for powders, that's going to be a market that's going to grow exponentially, and we think we'll be well positioned. So there's more, and then I'm not yet showing everything that's going to come out of the Novation sector too. So,
but I gotta admit, I love this slide right here, because for anybody who's really trying to get their hands around the multiple tentacles of HPQ Silicon, this is a perfect summary slide for everybody. This is one of the most powerful slides you have for the investors who who are really doing their research into HPQ Silicon. This is a great way to summarize it.
Yeah, I think I might have just made a mistake by undersizing the size of the market. I'll have to double check because I'm writing an update press release on it, so I'll go reread about it. If I have to, I'll do another correction in this presentation. But the market's massive. So I've gone this into depth, but I want people to understand that you can't enter the silicon industry by saying, I want to become a silicon metal producer. And there's a plan, there's a group out of Canada that's been trying to build a plan. This first was supposed to be in Canada, then it moved to Spokane, then they said they're going to build it in Tennessee. And the big issue with the big traditional plan is that you need 6 tons of raw material to make 1 ton of the material. So if you have a plan that's going to be 30,000 to 60,000 tons per year, make the math about the numbers of truck or train is going to carry there.
Yeah.
Social acceptability is going to be very, very difficult. Also, we live in a time where demand for energy, electricity, is very, very high. Okay, so they need 12,000 kilowatt hours per ton. Multiply that by 30,000 ton per year minimum. You see the demand for energy that's going to be there. So it's not as easy. It's not. There's now a bidding war. Okay, to get access to green energy. So these massive projects that requires a lot of green energy might end up having issues. The counter side to it is because we're much smaller and scalable, we can better position ourselves with green energy to be able to do it, be much more modular, different places. So we're not as physically limited in our green energy as our competitors,
Yeah, they need to find that one perfect spot that can fit this massive monster.
Well, it's sort of limited. It's either Quebec.
Yeah, that's not very easy to do.
It's either Quebec or you end up going to Norway. But because of the electricity, so there are so many incremental advantages to our product. Okay, which is as we get the QRR testing validating what we're doing, it's going to be easier for me to go out and sell those aspects. So that's really what's moving on. So we're really confident about the pricing we're going to have. And we're in the right niche. We're going to be making the right material for battery size production.
And you've got one, if you go back, the last bullet point for each one. On the first one with respect to the traditional side, on average, it costs more than $2,000 per metric ton to make 98% silicon. And at the last line of the pure VAP, it costs less than $2,000 per ton to make 3 or 4N. So that's the base QRR case. Yeah, I mean that's
what I'm telling you. There's a million ton shortage. Of course, the reality is this will all be validated once we finish the pilot phase we're doing. But when we were doing this, and I started to show this slide many years ago, this was a hypothetical moment. This is ongoing now. This is where it's going. And we also know how we're going to be able to improve the process of moving forward. So just to give a visualization of where it is, we would always be able to sell at a very interesting profit versus the competitors. We produced the first silicone material in December 2022. And from what the result we published, I think 2-3 weeks ago, we knew that was we discovered, because we didn't expect it, it exceeded 99% purity, which is very, very good. And remember, we've known from experience, we bought the 2N silicone metal for work that we're doing here in Novation, and it cost us €6,000 a ton. That's a 67 premium to the selling price of 553. So that could be a healthy market. And there's always going to be a premium as you move up the purity side. So HPQ's unique advantages in the silicone field: 2N silicone for less, OPEX and CAPEX. 3 to 4N, we can go after specialty market that our big competitors can't really do. If they want to do it, they have to have additional step after multiple steps. Some of them is done through acid leaching and all those type of non very, very good process for the environment.
Bernard, are we on the radar of some of the current traditional old status quo producers? Do you know?
I
Are
will.
we on their radar? Have you ever run into each other at a conference or show? Agoracom runs into, traditional IR firms all the time. I mean, they know of each other and
Well,
is that happening for you?
I will tell you this. Okay, I will tell you 2-3 very funny anecdotes. So one of my colleagues was basically met some of the guys from one of the big players, and I said, "Oh, yes, HPQ, you're on our radar." They don't want to say too much. You're on our radar.
Okay.
Second part is we finance a market research about the battery material, and a searcher basically said, and we done it through Novation. We thought with Novation, it's going to be far away from HPQ. Nobody's going to come into it. Well, some companies refused to give us information because they said, you're potentially a competitor because of HPQ Silicon. And the reason for that is very simple. If you Google anything that has to do with silicon now, okay, it's HPQ comes 1, 2, and 3, always. You don't really hear about our competitors. They don't communicate too much. Okay? So people that do questions, so I get like inquiries from Chinese manufacturers of silicone, from everybody, from Korea, everywhere in the world. So we are very visible, and we are on their radar. Now, are we on their radar? They're just checking what we're doing? Yes, that's the way it usually works. But like in the Fume silica, we were on the radar, and somebody moved faster than anybody else. It's going to be game moves for that. I think as we move.
Good to know.
So I think we have a very well now transparent plan of what we're moving forward. It's indicative timeline, so it's not it's not like glued and will not move, But that's where we are. We're doing the QRR, we're finishing the validation. Then we're gonna go through really racking up the numbers, okay? Because we did a 2,500% scaling up. We demonstrated it works, the process works. We know the next scaling up is going to be right to commercial size. So we'll have to come up with bankable feasibility studies to get, because we're probably going to be able to get a good chunk of financing for the first commercial plan. It's going to be through loan or government grants or mix and match or those type of issues. So we've got some good milestone in 2022. The QRR, the upcoming catalysts are really like the silicone pour, but once the silicone pour, because of everything we think, I think things are going to start moving even faster. But as with R&D, there's no such thing as immaculate R&D. It doesn't happen overnight. So, you have to, as I said, you have to learn to crawl before you walk, and then before you run. And I think we're just at that cusp when we're going to have the silicone pour. I believe it's going to be coming very, very soon.
Bernard, does artificial intelligence, does it or will it significantly accelerate your R&D side when you can start running things through a simulated or AI environment? I know you always got to do real world, but if can AI do the pre-work to point you in the right direction or make sure you go the right way, or do you have no opinion on that? But I figured it's a good time to ask.
I'm going to say I'm going to have sort of no opinion, but because at the end it's going to be empirical data. So where AI might be able to come in is once we go through all the empirical data that we have from the testing, and maybe it'll help us to improve some part of it. AI is not the magical thing; it just analyzes data. It's big data working differently. It's not the same thing as there's a difference between asking AI to write you a patent application of those issues that might actually look like they would work, but really have something that's truly innovative and do it. Not sure yet, but who knows? As I said, sometimes I'm agnostic. So I believe that the rest of 2023 is going to be very exciting for the QRR in the sense that, as we demonstrate our ability to produce 3 to 4N, then we sort of have our own feedstock for our battery side. So, and I think our timing for the start of commercial production in 2026 is perfect, because the discussion I was having with the battery manufacturer was that they're looking at incorporating silicone material, but it's going to be in a time frame from 2024 2026. So you combine that with our battery initiative, we're in the right spot. So before, what we used to do Our thinking was we'll get the QRR working, and then we'll start working on the battery side. But since we've incorporated Novation into HPQ starting last year, they've been able to basically push more of that side of the R&D and getting us ready to make the silicone material at the right time, ASAP, and start working on the battery side, battery testing, battery procedure. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to a laboratory where some of our materials being tested here in Europe. We have some working in Montreal. We also have some working here. So it gives us a bigger field to understand what's going on in the battery side. And we truly believe that we're on the right track with what are all our silicone initiative for batteries. Really believe in that. So we know that the QRR is going to be 2,500 ton in 2026. And we want to get more than just the $6,000 or 6,000 euro we mentioned for the 2N plus materials. So to do that, we have to go higher up the value chain. And what we're trying to do is build expertise. And the reaction I have had from the battery manufacturer has been very positive, because what we offer to them is tailor-made. And I've always had this sort of discussion with people since the beginning. When I had those first discussions, when they were starting to come and talk to me at the beginning, it was more hypothetical. But at the end, every battery manufacturer is going to have their own recipe, okay? And they're going to be very reticent to incorporate a new material. So it's going to have to go through many phases of qualification. The beauty of what we're doing now is the material we are doing through our battery initiative, okay? We will be able to replicate the same thing. But at one point, we will be able to make our feedstock. So as I said in the press release, once we start getting the entire line, then we cut our prices down. So at this moment, prices are not that relevant. It's really getting the right material, getting the value chain organized, and getting those things moving. And I'm hoping, relatively soon, we will start to have some battery results of our material, and that's going to start, feeding more into it. Because often when I have discussion with other groups, it says, "Oh, what type of results you're getting with your material?" So we're almost there. This is ongoing testing. But what we really want to do is understand what's out there, okay, and see how we can at least match what's out there, and then see how we can improve it. That's our philosophy for this side, and I think we have pathways to reach that goal. So everybody's been knowing about this, and it's very well written in the industrial book that silicon's better for batteries, but you can't go to the certain high percentage because of the material shots into it. But the literature is, and it really seems to be the truth in China, 5 to 10% of the graphite is replaced by silicon, micro-sized silicon or SiOX in batteries. So if you look at the situation where there's a shortage of graphite is very expensive, there's a deficit, there's a high demand for batteries, naturally people are going to come and try to take a look at silicon. So by us working and developing and validating our concept of having our own silicone material for batteries, I think we're going to be well positioned for it. And we're not tied to anybody. And at the end, if somebody says, "I just want this material this way," we will be able to do it. As opposed to, my big competitors, which is, okay, well, you have choice of product A or product B. You guys make it work. We're going to be able to be more fine-tuned. And I think that will allow us to get a better pricing also. So if you think about it, the literature seems to be telling us, or the information seems to be telling us that this market might grow to be a $2.6 billion market by 2030. Okay, so that's a massive market in addition to the other market. This is a secondary market, and where we have an incredible competitive advantage over everybody else is everybody else in the silicone industry for batteries is that we will make our own feedstock. That is what completely differentiates us from everybody, because everybody else is buying it. And what battery manufacturers want more than anything else, it is predictability.
And they can't, I was going to say that, and they can't buy better feedstock than you'll be able to get from yourself. at the end of the day.
Well, they
Much
they can
more,
buy better
much more
feedstock. It's going to be
predictable.
much more. It's going to be much more expensive. Okay, that hasn't changed the idea. It's just the reality is, and our understanding how the market works has really made us decide to focus much more on the micron size for batteries because we think that's where it is right now, and we know, 80% of that market is now being fed by Chinese-made product. So right now, every big battery manufacturers in North America and Europe, the only thing they're doing is they're buying the material in China, putting it in their battery here. That's not the political goal. Political goal in both North America and in Europe is to have a local source of the material. So our timing could not be better than what we're doing. So Silicon for Battery Initiative, we're producing small material. We're now working on producing larger quantity. That should be done relatively soon. We've actually bought some material and made it purer. We bought some commercial grade material 2N, and we've made it, I think, almost 4N. And then we're going to convert that into battery grade material in the sense of the sizing. We're working on, the material is being tested right now at a high level research center. We know how we're going to get a pathway to get our own feedstock in the meantime. We're going to be designing the plants, the costs, and all those issues, and decide where we put our first commercial size unit to start building. I'll have to start hiring people to, sales managers and basically a project manager. But we have some good candidates on target.
I like seeing hiring of a sales team because that's something you and I have been talking about for a while. Where I keep saying, what's the distribution going to be? How are you going to get how are you going to sell the product? So, I like to see that.
Yeah, but it's all going to fit perfectly. It's all perfectly timed with our QRR, big scale machine coming online. And for us, fundamentally, it's really that. By 2026, when we start making our own silicon, our cost structure is going to go way down. So we have this window where we can develop better product as we will get there, and then figure out a way for us to manufacture it ourselves. That's really exciting for us. So just remind people that HPQ is within it. Interesting factor now is Technon is no longer producing nano silicon powder through a plasma process. That came as a surprise to me. When I read the letter, I was very surprised. There's two groups that have started to remove themselves from the nano side of the business, and to be totally honest, I understand why. It's very hard to make. It's very expensive to do that material, and it's still at the R&D phase. So the only companies that are needing the material needs very, very small quantities. Okay, it's not the same thing as with the micron size, where there is a massive demand. There's going to be a massive demand. There's a massive market opportunity. That really became clear to us after guys of Novation started to take a look at it and opened my eyes to the fact of what happened in the solar industry, which is I think I've repeated this, but I'll repeat it again. In the solar industry, when it started, was silicon based to convert the energy of the sun into electricity, and then over time, everybody talking was next generation solar panel, next generation solar panel. But at the end, it's always the same thing. It's still silicon-based material. It's just been improved so much over time that it's going to move. So that's really one of the things that we're going to be moving forward with this.
Just go back for 1 second, just really quick. And it's amazing that you're in a jurisdiction, Quebec, that is so in here, right? They're not passive. They're very active, and you have them on the right hand side. Their goal is to go to the first location in North America to provide traceability.
Well, that's one of the reasons why they own 9.6% of HPQ.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It must be great to have the support of a province. It's not just you going it alone.
Yep, but we have a great product and we're developing it, so I'm very confident about it. Just to remind, the nano silicon business, we believe in it. We think our process could work. It is just that we've realized that there are more technical challenges for us to do, and we think that our time and our money could be better invested at this specific moment into our other projects. And we will keep this in the back burner, and eventually it will come back to being a very important part of our development business. It was a business decision we had to take. we think it's the right one. And now that I see that Techna and Evonik, both of them removed themselves from trying to do this, I think it's sort of been validated. My decision sort of been validated. Fume silica. Well, this is one I really find interesting. So if you look at this global size of the market, it's 400,000 metric tons, $2 billion. It's growing, but it's really a material that is needed to make a lot of high-end products, chemicals, and those issues. Okay. So we've been working since 2021. There was, for a reason I fully understand and accept it took us longer to reach the step where we're about to reach now, but it was completely worth it to do it. But it doesn't change the overall picture that this is another one of those sandwich material where an innovative and disruptive technology can come and take a very important position into it. Because as for silicone, fume silica, there's no real differentiation between the HPQ product and somebody else's product. As long as it has the same chemical boundaries, chemical form, it'll be the same one. So if we can offer our buyers a green option, they'll really love it. And it's just like, it's a no-brainer when you look at this. And the reason why I'm more confident, more excited, is that in a certain way, because I've lived through the QRR, okay? And this is not the QRR version, but similar, and there's some similarity. So I understand where we are in the venture, the project moving forward. And I understand the testing that we've done. So this is why I feel more excited, because as the QRR keeps advancing, becomes a more mature system, then this becomes the next big pilot plant that we have ongoing. And so basically HPQ will now have two massive industrial disruptive technologies being developed. First one, the QRR is advancing. We've demonstrated we can do it. We've demonstrated we're doing it. I feel the same confidence level that we've done it, because PyroGenesis have taken some serious steps to reach that goal. They've hired an excellent project manager with lots of experience in this regard. He took over the QRR, and since he took it over, it's really been advancing much phenomenally well. And I have the same confidence in this. And if you think about this, traditional process need 110,000 kilowatt hours per ton to do it. We're going to be doing 85. That's an 86% in the energy footprint and the carbon footprint. But the carbon footprint is going to be even more reduced, because we start directly from quartz. These start from silicon metal. Making 1 gram of silicon metal generates 5 grams of CO2. Plus you add the CO2 produced by the energy, and you see the energy footprint of this material. So the carbon tax implication on the manufacturing of fume silica is massive.
Especially in Europe, right? It's what, 80
in Europe, in Canada,
dollars per ton.
it goes further on. In Europe, by 2027, okay, the carbon tax, if you import that material, you will have to pay the equivalent carbon tax to what was produced.
Wow.
Okay? So when you look at this, when I look at the testing we've been doing, knowing how well our project is advancing, knowing how we're on the right direction, have that personal experience with the guys at PyroGenesis have demonstrated, that's why I'm excited. I am as excited or more excited with this one for a very simplistic reason. It's actually going to be an easier sell than the QRR, because the disruptive advantage is so massive. It's like, it doesn't take any, it's a no-brainer. And I think I'm doing now, because I'm preparing a corporate update, because we're reaching some milestone for the governments pretty soon. I'm doing the amount of carbon taxes savings are there, and all these big companies that are involved in this strategy, because they just don't do this, they do other material. That plays big into it. You know, they've made commitment to be carbon free by 2030. Well, this technology will allow manufacturers doing this to be carbon free. The same thing I'm going to be able to announce on the QRR. Actually, I think the QRR is going to be a little bit better because of some oddities of how you calculate carbon, but that's another thing. So, and this one I can talk about. The QRR, it's coming. So this is why we're going to be incredibly well positioned. We're really part of decarbonizing industrial manufacture, and we're not doing it to the detriment of the product, and we're not doing it to the detriment. We're actually doing it better. So it's a win-win-win-win-win.
Yeah, I love the fact that you are trumping traditional processes and bringing brand new processes at the end of the day.
Trumping. I love the chosen word, the word chosen. It sounds like my Benghazi, but so this is really where I'm. So where are we in this project? Well, we're finishing some small scale testing right now, and this is what makes me very, very comfortable about where we're going about doing this. So once we finalize the ongoing small scale testing, it'll be pretty cool. And then we'll finalize the design. Well, I think it's almost finalized. And then procurement is everything's moving. And based on my experience, like we're definitely on target for this. And having lived the experience of the QRR, I'm much more on my toe and on Pyrogenesis' toe about understanding the timeline of those issues. So this is why I'm also feeling more comfortable, because it's my second time I'm industrializing something. The first time it was, and the QRR is a beast. The QRR is really a technological beast. This one, there's some part of it that are actually simpler than the QRR. And there's also some technology transfer that can come from one to the other, from the experience we gain from one to the other. So I feel very, very comfortable with this one. So if you look at and I'll show it more later, but this is what really is keen about it. Okay, where Innovation comes in. Well, we onboarded them in 2023. I'm in the office here in Innovation. You might have seen some of the people go back and forth. They're busy working, but they're letting me do our meeting. They're helping us with the QRR to expand our patent portfolio attached to the QRR, which is very important to do. Because the way our agreement is, everything that's PureVap QRR related, okay, the patents revert automatically to HPQ. Then we're doing some collaboration on R&D to develop manufacturing of silicon SiOX for battery application. This really that's very crucial. All that we're doing this regards very crucial. If there are patents that remain of this, there'll be Innovation, but HPQ has a worldwide license on them, so it comes back to the same. Manufacturing carbon particles or supercapacitor. I'll start talking a bit more about it, because in every EV manufacturer, what the utility of a supercapacitor. George, you should have asked me, what the heck is a supercapacitor, Bernard?
I was gonna let you finish, because I don't like interrupting you, and the investors don't like me interrupting you either. But what is a supercapacitor, Bernard?
Yeah, I was waiting. In your car, okay, if you have a generative electricity power, so basically when you put on the brakes, okay, the electricity is converted back into be used for the car. The issue is that the electrical charge that comes into it, okay, is too fast for the battery to handle. So you need specific small battery capacity that can quickly charge and quickly discharge back. Like in my car, which is a fuel car, there is that capacity to, when we break it, charge a bit, but it's not that we have a battery, it just has a supercapacitor into it. So there are supercapacitors into it. And in Innovation, we have a patent for a new way of making supercapacitors, and I'll be starting talking more about it because part of our battery initiative. And it's another particle. If you think about it, silicon nitrate might be also used to make ceramics that are going to be used in battery. Supercapacitor, silicon for battery. So we have multiple aspects where are playing into the EV space is there, the battery space is there. So that's pretty exciting. And that's, I say, it's all part of the strategy where we can have more things to generate, potential revenues in those issues or royalties or those things. So that's very interesting. And then we're going to take that expertise in the building the supercapacitors and see how we can transfer it to the silicon materials we're making for batteries. So you see the synergy is massive. That's going on. And then basically capitalizing on their own knowledge, the technical is really developing a new autonomous process for making hydrogen from hydrolysis. I cannot wait to talk about it. But fundamentally, the issue is with hydrogen, It's not many. First of all, electrolysis is not the most efficient process in the world to do it. Okay. Then you have to transport the energy where you need it. What we're really looking is having an autonomous system that's going to allow us to be perfect for the last mile, for big industrial process, for pool heating.
I want the license to the pool heating application. That's what I
Because
want.
the technology is exothermic, so it does generate heat. And there are so many applications to this, and this is really another one of those projects that is very well advancing, very, very well. Can't wait to be able to talk more, but that's based on not that we don't know what we're doing, just we're waiting until we file some patents. So that's very cool. So if you take a look at HPQ in its entirety, it's actually reached a point where I feel very comfortable into it, in the sense that as an R&D company, okay, we don't have all of our eggs in one basket, okay? And I'm only showing 4 of them.
Not a one-trick pony. I know in the past you've had trouble saying that term.
Yes, but actually I focus more on doing this. The PureVac QRR and the battery initiative are intertwined, but as we said with what I just said about supercapacitors, there's also intertwined and separation. So R&D, there's multiple TRL. It doesn't happen. Immaculate R&D does not happen. And there is some lucky involvement, but even bringing them to commercial scale. What we're focusing on is doing R&D that scale to potentially massive commercial application. QRR is well in its way. Fume silica is also very, very well in its way. Very positive development. I think it's going to be good. So if you take a look at this, next year we're going to have another pilot plant ongoing. We're going to be working also on our battery initiative and doing material and starting producing some material next year. We're going to be working and doing the design and the building of the commercial plant for the fume silica, and then we're going to be also on the hydrogen side. We're going to be working on building our first prototype reactor to do it. So 2023, 2024, very exciting, and it's going to keep going because we'll add more R&D to it.
That's when it starts to accelerate, right? That's when it really starts to accelerate at that point.
Yeah, well, yeah, everything's going to be shitty accelerate. So
what's amazing, Bernard, if I can interrupt, is how far you've come when we take a look at this, and so many shareholders who have taken the ride with you and believe in the vision, how far HPQ has come since 2015. When back then we might have said we're one trick pony because it was just focused on solar. And now take a look at this Gantt chart here. QRR, battery initiative, fume silica, hydrogen. I mean, and this is well thought out. Anybody's looking at this right now, this Gantt chart knows this isn't George.com Silicon just throwing some ideas on a wall and saying maybe, 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 maybe. I mean, these are very specific initiatives, milestones for each one of these verticals, even though they're horizontal here. And I just want to say hats off to you, man, because that's taken an incredible amount of brain power, partnership, hard work, obviously, sacrifice, FUD that you've had to fight off at times from critics out there. But I don't think there is a valid HPQ Silicon investor who doesn't look at this and say, just, wow, I'm super excited to be part of this. I can't wait. Yeah, of course, we would all love it if the stock was sitting at $10 today and you had the immaculate R&D, immaculate R&D, and then immaculate production and immaculate sales. Sure. But I just want to say hats off to you. And of course, we know there's a group around you, but you have been the tip of the spear, Bernard. You have taken much of this on your shoulders to get this done. And I didn't have to say this. I don't have to say it. We could, but I wanted to say it because it's so true, man. And it's incredible what you've done with PyroGenesis as your partner, but just incredible, man.
And it's incredible what we're going to be doing with PyroGenesis plus Novation, plus HPQ. I think the future is very promising. Okay, I can't be a perfect gauge to the market gurus and the evaluation. I think the speech where we keep saying that the company is not the share price is true. We're going to stay focused on doing our business plan, executing on it, getting things moving, and that's what we're doing. We have catalysts that are coming online. We'll have even more catalysts coming online too. So I think the key takeaway from this is that we've stayed focused and true to ourselves, even though there's been some ups and downs. And I'm pretty happy where we are.
And by the way, the best deck ever, because you and I used to have these discussions about prior decks, and they're always very informative and great. But I always had my feedback.
What? You got no criticism?
Make it a little more concise and cleaner. And I got to tell you, amazing deck. Like, this is by far the best deck you've ever put out. And more importantly, it's what's in the deck, but you're presenting it in a way that's making it so easy to follow. It's now where HPQ used to be difficult for people to understand because there were multiple moving parts and new things that people had never seen before. You've created a deck and a presentation that is very powerful. I love this deck, Bernard.
Thank you. And go take a look at our new website too. It's not bad.
It's not
bad. It's actually funny now because we're now working on doing the translation to French, to German of our videos. Actually to Italian too. I don't know why, but they wanted Italian too. So it's now it's interesting because when I do my presentation of the deck to investors, I start by running the two videos, the ESG one, and then the HPQ one, and it plays very well into it. I'll tell you a funny anecdote to it because we're using a lot of stock image to do those videos. And first stock image they were showing, there was American flags all over the place. I said, "Oh no, shit, change that to Canadian flag." So we did that. We got the Canadian image. And so we were about close to finishing. It says, "Oh, the Quebec government owns 9%. I got to show some Quebec flags." We had to
show Quebec the love, man.
we went to show Quebec.
I think it's the Quebec flags before the Canadian flags, quite frankly.
Well, it's to be totally honest, there's not that many stock pictures of those issues. I wasn't going to like pay an helicopter to do these type of things, but it was just one of those.
Bernard, this is where you need to call me because we can create those. We can create through artificial intelligence any image you want at the end of the day through artificial intelligence. So you name it, we'll create it for you, my friend. But anyway. I can't wait to see those presentations in the multiple languages. That's going to be great.
No, just the videos. We're not doing we're going to translate the presentation and you get those things. That I can't wait for AI to be able to do translation. Although the AI is helping us a little bit with doing the translation.
When are you coming back? So let's end it on this.
I have another week. I have another week of work there.
Okay, well, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. It means great being done. And listen, check with us once in a while on the Agoracom forum. Let us know how things are going over there. Give everyone a little taste.
We'll do.
Have a happy Easter weekend, Bernard, because obviously Easter is going to be a big deal in Europe, especially in France. Happy Easter, upcoming long weekend, or Passover, or whatever you celebrate. Or if you don't, just a happy long weekend for everybody because markets are closed on Friday. Bernard, awesome presentation, my friend. I think the next one we'll do is a Q&A, because we got a lot of smart shareholders in HPQ who might have some great questions. So I think that'll be the next one we do when you're back. But until then, thanks, my friend.
Yeah, I think after I've done my Fume silica and my next QR update, that would be a good idea to have one.
All right, that's all from us. Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. And to all HPQ Silicon investors, I hope you love this presentation as much as I did. Looking forward to seeing your feedback on Agoracom. See you later.
See you later.
Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel and never missing another great Agoracom small cap video.